Hey art parents, welcome to spring. I'm loving this weather. Isn't it nice to have a little bit of sunshine? And welcome to one of our final projects for the year. It's crazy that we're here already. I'm super excited for this project and for how much fun it is for the kids to be able to paint on canvas, and love that we were able to get 8 by 10 canvases for them for this year. And the fun thing with that is you'll kind of want to remind them they're using an actual artist's canvas. Artists paint on this and sell it all the time. And they can take it home and get any 8 by 10 frame and take out the glass because they want the paint to be able to breathe. If you don't, sometimes the paint will like stick to the glass and it'll ruin the painting. So pop out the glass, and sometimes the back if it's a little bit too thick, and then just push the stays in on the canvas board, and there you go, your own artwork framed on the wall. That's so fun. And I love that we get to do that for the students. I think that's one of my very favorite things about the art literacy program is giving the students this chance to work with materials that they wouldn't necessarily get the chance to work with at home. And also I wanted to just mention to you really briefly the feedback that we got from the teachers. I really appreciate Mrs. Mon for taking the time to survey the teachers and see what they thought. And overwhelmingly, the response was so positive. They're so grateful for you guys, and you're doing a great job. Just the main thing was it's a little frustrating to the teachers that that we don't tend to schedule until the last of the month. And even if you're in beginning in the month, I kind of keep an eye on what's going on in the book, and it's always kind of a crack up. Like the first 2 weeks, there's hardly anything. And then that last week, actually last week, we were running out of supplies. I was filling the supplies, the fabric, like on a daily basis to make sure that we were keeping up because so many people schedule lessons. So if you schedule earlier in the month, you have no worries about running out of supplies. And please let me know. I try and keep the art cart supplied, of course. And I know, it just kind of happens. If there are 2 classes in a day, sometimes it'll run a little bit low. But please just text me, and usually I can text you back and tell you where there's more. Which actually now I'm just always putting in that closet behind the door in the laminator room so that you guys can consistently find it in one spot. But I want to make sure that cart stays stocked and it's as easy as possible for you guys. So schedule early. Please also give them time to respond. Most teachers schedule out at least a week in advance. So if you could just, if you can shoot them an email and say, hey, I'd like to come this week or next week or the week after, or my schedule's pretty open. Is there a day that's best for you this month? That's kind of the ideal. And then they can let you know, 1 or 2 dates that work for them, and you can go from there. But overall, so great. And along those lines also, just with the younger grades, feel free to keep it simple. I give you a lot of information because I want you to go in feeling confident and feeling like an expert so that you don't feel intimidated by the kids asking questions, but don't feel like you have to cover everything that I put into the lessons. And that's kind of why I like to include that bullet list sheet on the in the folder on the art cart. So that you just have this information ready at your fingers. What I recommend is you get it at the first of the month, read through it really quick, make your appointment. Then, the night before you're going in or the morning before you go in, read through the information once again, and go teach the lesson. Just kind of, the things that hit you the most will probably also be the most important things for the students. And then if you need to, you can go back and look at the information, but you don't need to know exactly dates or whatever. If somebody asks, which occasionally does happen, it's nice to have it there, but it's not like the kids have to know their exact birth date. Do you know what I'm saying? It works to say also born in the 1880s or whatever. Okay, so on to Edward Hopper. We have this awesome book this month. And so for the younger students, just read the book and then move on to the project. Give instructions on the project. For the older students, I included a bullet list of some information just in case you want to talk about it a little bit more. I have to admit, one of my very favorite things about doing this is that the students really are interested in the lives of these artists. I get to do the 6th graders, and they, it's kind of hard to feel like you're making a dent with them sometimes, especially those cute boys. And I actually just had a mom of one of those boys mention to me a month ago. She said, oh, you know, we were talking the other day. He was telling me all about Andy Warhol and how cool Andy Warhol is. And I had no idea. And I just thought, man, that's so awesome. I love it. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Brown is so nice to like give me extra time because she knows we really like talking about it. And sometimes I get a little carried away, but if they're interested, I mean, it's so fun and exciting when they're engaged in it. So whatever works for your class. You guys have great instincts. You'll know what's best for them. If it's just reading the book and moving on to the project, great. But even then, you want to take a minute and at least put the paintings up on the board. And as you're instructing the kids, just say, hey, notice how clean the lines are in here. Notice how there's not a lot of stuff. There's not a sun up in the corner. What kind of feelings are you getting from this? This is very composed. It's pretty simple, and yet there is a definite emotion here. What do you think? What do you feel? What do you think the people in the cafe are feeling? This painting is called Nighthawks. Does that tell you anything? Make it any different? Take a minute and just talk to them about what they're seeing, and then hopefully help them translate that into what they're going to do. And, you know, and just say, hey, you know, it's fine to put the sun up in the sky, but you'll notice that on most paintings, artists don't have the sun because we have all of the sky around us and just the one sun. You know, not every sky view is going to have the sun. So maybe try something new this time. Or, you know, let's keep your lines simple and don't put too much in, but the detail you put in, let's make sure it says something. Like the faces. I look at the faces on these people and they've got their mugs of coffee, and what do you think they're thinking? Do you think they're together or separate? Do you think, you know, what kind of emotions are you feeling from this? That's really, you know, that's kind of what we want to build with these, with the students, is like this intelligence, for being able to look at a painting and interpret what they're feeling and what the emotion is and what the artist is trying to get across. And one thing I love about Edward Hopper was he was so open about the reason he painted was to help people see the world the way he saw it. I love the quote from him, and I put it in bold so it would be easy to find. Great art is the outward expression of an inner life in the artist, and this inner life will result in his personal vision of the world. What do you think that means? Just take a minute and let them say, you know, we all see the world a little bit differently. Science has shown that we all see colors a little bit differently, which is kind of cool to think about. Just let them kind of, you know, I mean, let that expand their view just a little bit. If you have the time, oh my goodness, take a minute and look over his work. I mean, he's got these beautiful scenes. They're so idyllic, and yet there's this deeper undercurrent. There is a definite emotion in his work, kind of the sense of loneliness and wistfulness, but that could be different based on the person viewing it. So definitely, you know, there are no right answers. There isn't a right answer. Edward Hopper didn't say, this is a portrait of me and I am vaguely unhappy. He just said, this is a portrait of me. Figure it out. See what you feel. Look how intelligent his eyes are. I mean, it feels like you caught him in a moment. He looked up at you. He's definitely thinking something and feeling something. And I love that. This is one of my favorites. Room by the Sea. It's such, I mean, this isn't something you see painted a lot. It's the doorway into a hotel room. What do you think about that? I love the light, this great sense of light and shadow. You see the sun just streaming in through the window in the background. What do you think? I mean, this is kind of different. And then there's this kind of touch of surrealism with the ocean right outside the door. What do you think that's saying? Does that make you feel like, does this feel like a dream to you? Does this feel like reality? Do you think maybe they had a cottage on the seashore? Do you think he sat in his cottage and just wanted to show you what he saw? Or do you think maybe there's something else going on here? What do you think? And kind of the fun thing to think about is Edward Hopper was painting at the turn of the century when, visual art was just exploding. It was such a phenomenal time. So he's super interested in the Impressionists. He goes to Paris and to Spain, and he studies with Cézanne and with Monet and Manet, who we haven't really talked about. But the other two we have, right? Remember those bowls of fruit and the interesting still lifes that Cézanne did. And then we just barely talked about Monet and his gardens, his water lilies. Can you kind of see their influence here? And yet, his paintings are a lot more realistic, right? They're a lot more composed. Also, something we haven't really talked about at the time, but this is the same time as the Surrealists and the Dadas. And, you know, do you feel like there's a little bit of surrealism in this painting? I don't know, it's kind of fun. I think it's fun to let them see and let them, by exposing them to that, having them think about it before they start their own painting, hopefully it influences their painting a little bit as well. And so I didn't bring home a canvas board, and I'm just going to put some paper on the art cart for us to use because those canvas boards are expensive. They were over half of our budget for the year. So I only bought enough for each student. So when you get that cute, worried kid that it always seems like there's one in the class that's made a mistake and they're just like, no, I need a new one. I can't do it. You just share with them what my high school art teacher would share with us. The great thing about paint is you can always paint over it. So just say, don't worry about it. It's fine. If the paint's on kind of thick, grab a paper towel and wipe it off and then paint over it. It's okay. These paints are opaque. They will cover it. You will be just fine. I'm sorry, you cannot have another canvas. We just don't have enough. So I think it should work out just fine. But it's also a good thing for them to learn in general. Like, you don't always have to start over. Some of those cute kids, oh, bless their hearts, they get so worried about it. And that's typical. I mean, that happens to all of us, even as an artist. I know right now I'm stuck on a painting. I actually hung it up in my room, and my husband's like, oh, you know, this is nice. Tell me about it. I'm like, I hate it. I can't stand it. And I need to just look at it a lot and figure out where I want to go with it. And I'm not going to scrap it and start again because canvases are expensive. I'm going to take time and figure out how I want to change it, and then I will move forward with it. And that's what all artists have to do at times. I'm sure there's nobody who loves everything they produce, although that would be awesome. Okay, sorry, back to what we're doing here. So but I do want you to show them really quickly. Just hold up a paper and say, you know, I'm going to put in a tree right here. And I'm just putting in the basic shape of the tree. And then I always even say, you know, and like, here I want a little sleeping dog under the tree. And so I'm going to put him in right there. And I'm going to put about where I want my skyline to be. And this is all I'm putting. And can you see this from the back of the room? Can you see this even probably from your seat? No, not hardly at all, right? And that is how it's supposed to be. Because the graphite from the pencil, if you put in a lot of details and press all the way, you'll get a lot of graphite stuck in it's called the tooth of your canvas, and all the little bumps in your canvas. And that's gonna mix in with your paint and make your paint look dirty. And that is no good. So if you don't need to pencil in at all, don't do it. That's great. If you are ready to go with the paint, go for it. If you do need to pencil in, totally all right. But keep in mind, keep it super light and keep it just the big details. I was thinking, like, for example, with this, if I'm penciling in this painting, I'm just going to put about where I'm going to put the house, where I'm going to put the lighthouse, and then where I want the hillside to be. That's it. We're not putting in all the little details of the lighthouse, just the basic shape. And I know I kind of hound on that, but it's because for some reason it is so hard for kids to learn. And yet it's frustrating when you paint over that and the graphite mixes in and it looks so yucky. And then also sometimes maybe you want to make changes and you know, you don't want it in hard and fast, even if the graphite didn't mix in with it. So have fun with them. Just a couple other general notes, just as far as like making it easy on yourself. I really am a big advocate for sharing water and sharing a plate, a pallet, because it just makes your cleanup and your prep so much faster to just plunk down a cup in between two students or even three students. If they're in a desk, sometimes I'll just set down two, if they've got their desks, situated like a table, I'll just set down 2 cups of water in the middle. And then as I'm walking around and they're working, if the cup's getting full of paint, I'll just go dump it and get them a new one. But that way you're not having to fill 25 glasses of water. And also with the paint, a lot of times they never use as much paint as they think they're going to. And the acrylic paint is pretty expensive, so we want to conserve that. I want them to use as much as they want, but I always just say, I'm just going to give you a little dot to start out with, and I just give them, just a little, just squeeze out just about a circle, like, a pea-size amount. And then if you want more, you can always have more. You are always welcome to have more. And then we'll just share with friends, because that way you can have 5 or 6 colors on here and you've got plenty to use. I will give you more if you need more. And that, I know the days we paint, it kind of keeps you hopping, keeping all the supplies filled up, but for the students. But it's great, it's great for them, it's fun for them. Next month will be a less involved project that way. And then if we share those palettes, we're not throwing away 2 bottles of paint every time we teach it in class. Does that make sense? So, of course, use what you need. And I want you to tell that to the students too. Use what you need. You're welcome to use what you need. But we're gonna start small and just add on to it. If you have any questions or need anything at all, please don't hesitate to text me, call me, email me. I'm here to help you. You guys are doing such a great job and I appreciate you so much. Thanks again.